we're going to introduce Spiridon Giannakis, who is a designer and a publisher who has raised concern about the use of artists' works within these AI tools. And here is what he had to say.
Whenever I hear AI generated, I kind of cringe internally because this is an image generator that is feeding from a database, and this is not far in the concept of artificial intelligence. It's not intelligent at all. It's essentially just, in my opinion, something like a more complex Excel sheet that tells you when, if. And what is generated with that is usually the construct of what has been fed before. There's a huge issue with the fact that it is easy to prompt something and add the name of an artist to closely resemble their style and copy their body of work and essentially use the bits and pieces to create something new just based on a couple of words that someone has put in there. That alone is problematic. I'm not having a beef with the technology itself. I think actually it's very interesting if used in a different way, like if you train it on your own art and you want to see how far a machine can take it, and you can take it from there and maybe find inspiration in how it's done. But comparing AI as a machine that is inspired by another artist is by far not even close to the truth. This machine is not inspired by anything. It's not learning like a human is, and it's not interpreting. That's the most important part.
Could you describe a little bit these ethical aspects more in detail? Like, why could it be unethical to use these kind of tools?
It is unethical if the database is fed with art that has been scraped from the internet. If this entire model that you're working with, if it has been feeding on images that have been downloaded from the internet to be reused for something that is potentially also used in a commercial level, then that is problematic because obviously there's a problem with copyrights. From a creative standpoint, there can also be doubted if it's ethical to copy something that a human has made. There was this one issue where the famous artist Kim Jong-gi was copied from an AI that has been trained to spit out work that looks close to what he has been doing. And Jong-gi just passed in October, and a couple days later, someone created this AI with the argument of people being still able to enjoy his art, like if there wasn't enough from him. This has also been happening with many other artists who already have passed, and where maybe in some cases the issue of copyright is not there anymore, and still having this created from a machine leaves a weird taste in my mouth. Just from a legal standpoint, we see that people are right now, and companies are actually suing these companies that are creating these image generators. And the argument of people to say this is gatekeeping creativity and everything, I can't say it any different. It just makes me laugh as like a crazy person. If you think art is being gatekept, then just pick up a pencil and make some, and tell me if someone is holding you off from learning how to draw. The one thing that is being accessible is art, because you can always create something. Calling artists that barely being respected in an industry that is very much depending on artists, which is ironic, calling them gatekeepers and that they want to keep their fame and their money is absolutely ridiculous. Probably 90% of the artists I know are not being paid fair. There recently has been this video that has been going viral where people are discussing how VFX artists are being treated at Marvel, for example, that they're being underpaid and they work too much, and that the outsourcing studios are essentially competing with each other. I'm creating more for less money. And the issue with this is that it's showing that creative work is not appreciated as it should, because obviously if you take art away from our everyday life, you don't have anything to consume. Are you going to make your own shows on TV? Are you going to write your own books? I mean, you can, obviously, but still you decide to consume. All that stuff is there. Everything is being designed, even if it's UI or UX design. If you open an app, everything has been thought by a creative person. But the way that they are being treated as people that can be just switched out just makes it even more dangerous to combine that view with the fact that there is no limit to human greed. Using a machine and getting something out of it that is just good enough. It's not about if it's as good as something that a human created. It's more important that it's good enough for them. And you're seeing this already with publishers using AI generated covers for their books. And that's something that I find, as a publisher and designer myself, I find this highly problematic, because obviously what it shows is that as long as people find something that is appealing to the buyer, they don't really care where it comes from. That is happening also in the concept art industry very much, I think. And there have been messages and stories, but also like firsthand stuff that I'm hearing from people working in these studios who are telling me, yes, we are being already advised to work more with AI. Because of course, AI started as something that was really interesting to create something like a texture for something. You need chainmail to create an armor or something. You can't find the right stock photo. Of course, you're just going to try to generate something, and that's done. Now we have gotten to a point, well, can you create the whole knight in the style of Greg Rutkowski? Well, I'm just typing it in there. There you go. It's close enough. The director knows what we need. Maybe you can tweak it, but there are very scary things that I'm seeing for generally artists who are living from their own art, that are not working at something or for a specific IP.
In Europe, we have this GDPR thing for browsing the internet. Do you think there will be a similar thing for artists? Do you think there could be like a potential to combat this issue through that, or in any similar way?
It becomes uninteresting to exploit on a big scale if it is illegal. Obviously, there will always be people who do that, but if you can be prosecuted for that, then it doesn't become as attractive and like a mass product anymore. And depending on which country you are and how the laws are in your country, obviously, you might go to whatever IT companies are doing when they go to have their servers in Switzerland or Luxembourg, you know? They are avoiding certain things to surpass them, and there will always be these loopholes that will be used. But if it's not being made that easy, that's already a lot of protection that can happen just for any creative out there.
Do you think that AI generated artwork tools like these can threaten the occupation of concept artists? Do you think it will be like erase that profession altogether? Do you think it's like that bad, or do you think it'll be like
No.
minimized?
Every person that has decided to become an artist professionally, there has been this one moment where the first client believed in what you can do, or maybe even wanted to exploit you because you were cheap or whatever. Doesn't matter. There was this first client that you had and the first gig and the first really bad thing you did, but you got paid for, that you would do very different 10 years later looking back at it. These jobs might go away. These things where there was like some independent publisher who needed a book cover, they would just go to AI. Or maybe some board game folks will decide, okay, so we need 100 cards, but we cannot pay 100 artworks, so let's just generate a couple of things and have them maybe tweaked by an artist who can do that much cheaper, instead of having 5 people doing that. Instead of having 20 people in a company, you might end up with having 5 who are tweaking something that has been put out by this image generator. And this is speculation, right? But I can tell you for a fact that there have been people being told after they left the company that they will be replaced by AI, by a generator. They are planning to do these things now with that. And there were people not being hired because they are not as good as AI. That's the claim. So this is already being real, and we are only a couple months in. Like, what is it now? 6 months, a year? I don't know. You can already see what has been happening when technology in this industry has been replacing certain parts of the process. For example, look at what 3D printers did to sculpting. And I think the same thing is about to happen here. It's only gonna impact us culturally worse if not being regulated. Which kid will decide to become an artist? We're sitting up there in this ivory tower thinking we are creative people. This will never go away. There's no machine that can copy it. And this entire thing has started at the top with us right now. What if it goes down? What will it do with law, for example, or with medicine?
Could you see any sort of like positive aspects with these kind of tools?
There are aspects in the creation of something that are tedious. If you can get help from a machine to help you with these things so you can go faster about your creative aspects, maybe there is a way for this to be good. But when it's about generating something, I don't see why. There are enough people who do that. If it's too expensive, then the motivation is greed. How is that good? There's also this thing about stuff being created from an indie perspective. So if any indie publisher wants to create a board game and they are like, okay, so we cannot afford an artist to do all that. So we have to work with AI because otherwise this thing would not be made. I find it hard to give an answer to some issue like that because, of course, it would be much more beautiful if this is created. At the same time, it is a problem because the profession that would have, like the people who could have paid their rent with it, if you tried harder to make it happen and, I don't know, like start a Kickstarter campaign or go on GameFound or something to have it financed or find someone like an investor, maybe that would have helped too. But you wouldn't even try because you had this other option. And my concern is not even with that. My concern is what the people are doing that can generate their own AI based on the content that they have, like big corporations. Obviously, that can be a problem, I find.